Hello and welcome to Deborah Hanson Read with Me. I'm Deborah Hanson. Today we're going to do a chapter summary review of chapters 16 and 17 for Chains by Laurie Halse Anderson. So these are just going to be quick summaries with some quotes that you can use for essays or book talks or anything that you're going to be doing in class. These are not to replace, obviously, reading the book. I am an English teacher. I do say that. If you want to hear the full chapters on my channel, you can see that I do read the chapters out loud with some commentaries along the way and some summaries. So if you're having a hard time reading the book and you just need some help with that, you can read those. If you've read the chapter and you need a quick review, or you forgot to read the chapter and you have a test in a few minutes, this is a good replacement, but not to replace reading the book, please. Okay, here we're going to go with chapter 16 first. So here we go. I put some notes on the slides so that you can use them if you need to take some notes in your notebooks or if you want to remember them. So after Ruth's seizure, we know at the end of the last chapter, she had that epileptic seizure. Now Isabel realizes that it's even more important for her to get freedom because there's lots of talk about selling Ruth. We know Madame Lockton is like freaked out by her. She thinks she's possessed by the devil. She doesn't want to be anywhere near her. So it's really, important now that Isabel tries to secure their release. She knows the information about the plot to assassinate George Washington is valuable, and so she decides that she has to use it to secure their freedom. So she decides to sneak into Mr. Lockton's library at night and steal the list. So this is extremely dangerous. One, I mean, she's breaking into the library. Two, getting out of the house. Remember now, she's a slave, right? So she has she has little to no rights at all. So this is really, really scary, but that's how important it is for her to get her freedom. So she takes it to the Patriots headquarters and she tries to use it as leverage to gain her freedom. So this is extremely dangerous mission. She's out at dark at night. Anytime slaves would be out at night, they would need to have a letter, like a permission slip, basically, like equivalent to what you would have a hall pass, I guess, for them to be out after dark. And of course, she doesn't have this. But luckily, as she's walking along, there's another lady who obviously does have a pass, who basically warns her that there's people coming ahead, so she hides so she doesn't get caught. She goes to the camp and she tries to get to see the man in charge. So finally, after lots of convincing, she finally gets introduced to Colonel Reagan, and she's given a chance to explain her situation and to show him the letter. Colonel Reagan promises to look into it. And most of all, he gives Isabel hope because he's like, yeah, this is good information. We can use this. And yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to be in touch with you. I'll help you. He tells Isabel that she has to take the letter back and put it back where she found it, which confuses some of the officers in the room. But he says, listen, we don't want Lockton knowing that we are onto him. So you have to put it back. He keeps listening to all the information. And then he gives her a secret code to get back to the camp if she ever has any other information. The code is ad astra, which basically in Latin means to the stars. So Isabel returns safely home with her new feeling of hope. And for the first time in a long time, she can see freedom as a possibility. So she puts the letter back safely. She goes back to bed with this feeling of hope. Okay, so some good quotes for this from this unit that you could use to support any of those things we just talked about. The wings that could spirit us away were hidden in the master's desk. I had to take the list. It would buy us our freedom. So the wings that could spirit us away were hidden in the master's desk. That's the note. That's the letter. So that's basically just a metaphor of basically the letter being the wings that can set her free. A loyalist, sir, who would beat me bloody if I knew I was here. So that's when she responds. He's like, who's your master? And she's like, listen, dude, he's a loyalist. If he even knew I was here, I'd be dead. He'd beat me bloody. They want to kill the general. I finally pulled free of the surgeon's grasp. I have proof. This was when they were having that discussion of how valuable her information was going to be, right? And she finally blurts it out, like they want to kill Washington, basically. So listen to me. I've got proof. And that's what got Colonel Reagan's attention. Colonel Reagan bent down so that his face was level with mine. Do not tell this to another soul on pain of death. Do you swear? Even the fact that he lowered himself to her level is really interesting here because, of course, she's a slave, right? So she is not important. So he lowers himself to actually show that, I'm listening to you, right? Don't tell another person because, listen, this is really important and this could get you killed. I swear, I whispered. The code is ad astra. Repeat it, please. Ad astra. I had never heard such a word, but then and again, I'd never before spoken a code. I never forget a thing, sir. And that we know. Isabel has an amazing memory, a photographic memory, really. She can read and she's super smart. So we know she's never going to forget this, especially because she wants her freedom so badly. So that's pretty much it for chapter 16. So let's go into chapter 17 now. So the summary for chapter 17. So Isabel's waiting for the news that from Colonel Reagan, right? That because she's given him this idea about the assassination of General Washington. And now she's kind of like, she's waiting on pins and needles, basically, to hear from him. Madame Lacton is treating Ruth terribly because she thinks, of course, she's possessed by the devil. So they have to keep her out of her sight because she's so afraid that Isabel is so afraid that if Madame Lacton gets even more upset, that she'll just go ahead and sell her. Mr. Lacton gets a visitor that tells him their secret plot to kill Washington is out. This can only mean one thing: the Patriots have a spy among them. So Lacton finds out that they know, and he suspects that, there's a spy from the people in the room that are actually working for the Patriots. So this is kind of scary. Mr. Lacton decides it's not safe for him to stay in New York, so he decides he needs to go back to England. So he tells Madame Lacton that she'll be staying in New York. Cue in the big fight here, because she's not going to be happy with that. This doesn't go over well with Miss Lacton. There's a huge fight, and of course, Mr. Lacton hits her for not listening to him. She blames the bruises on Isabel, saying she slipped on some wax that wasn't cleaned up, but she's not fooling anyone. Shortly after, Mr. Lacton is put in a shipping crate and sent to England undetected. At dawn, some soldiers arrive to arrest Mr. Lacton, but of course, he's long gone. They search the house but find nothing. Becky orders Isabel to clean up the mess they left behind and then goes to the market. When Becky returns home, she shares the gossip she heard at the market. It seems the Patriots are arresting conspirators against the cause of independence. So these are the people who were in the library, obviously. They know the people from the list. It appears that a man named Hickey let it slip that they were planning to kill Washington. Kind of crazy, since he was the one who was supposed to kill him. At least Mr. Lacton escaped in his cheese crate and is safe back in England. Okay, here's some quotes for that one. The thought of Madame putting Ruth up for auction was a constant torment, like bees darting in and out of my sight, daring me to swat at them. Here's some similes, metaphors. Laurie Halse Anderson uses so many of them in her story, but she's basically talking about, the thoughts being like bees darting in and out of my sight, ready to swat at them. So that's a good metaphor or simile in this situation. Loyalist shopkeepers had been tarred and feathered by angry mobs and their shops destroyed. Each day dawned hotter than the one before. So you can see things are heating up. The Patriots are going after any loyalists. They're tarring and feathering them, which is what they did back then. They would literally cover them with tar and then throw feathers on them. That was what they did back then. So each day it's getting, the situation is getting more critical, right? It's getting a lot more heated. The plot to kill Washington had been uncovered. That's on page 107. Listen carefully. Lacton interrupted the rebels. No, I've sent for a cart. We must burn my papers. I will not be left at the mercy of our enemies while you slink away. That's Mrs. Lacton. So the first one is Mr. Lacton, who says, listen, I got to get out of here. They know I'm involved. They know I'm a loyalist. I'm in big trouble. So burn my papers. And then he sends for the carpenter to make a cheese crate. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And then Miss Lacton is not happy. Without warning, he hit Madame with all the force in his arms. She flew into the bookcase, causing several books to tumble to the ground. I almost reached for her, but I was afraid to anger Lacton any further. This is from Isabel's point of view. She wants to help her, believe it or not, even though she's just evil to her. That this also goes to Isabel's character, that she really is a kind, warm-hearted person. She actually wanted to help Madame, but she knew that she better not do that. A carpenter soon arrived and nailed the master into a large crate marked cheese. When the soldiers arrived at dawn to arrest the master, there's a typo there. His business papers were all ash and the crate of cheese was long gone. Page 109. The master is well out of harm's way, which is more than I can say about myself, Madame muttered gingerly, rubbing the violet bruises on her wrist. Page 110. So again, remember the page numbers that I put on the quotes are from my book. I have the soft cover one. If you have a different book, they'll be very close to that page, right? So you can probably find them in that page. But if you do need to put specific pages because your teacher's using a specific book in class, do make sure that you check to make sure which page your quote is coming from. If you have to be quoting these in any of the essays or discussions that you're doing. So there you go. And we'll stop here for now. So that was the chapter summaries for 16 and 17. Hope that was helpful for you. Thank you so much for listening. And if you do like my channel, please subscribe. We love to see the numbers going up. My students check regularly. So please subscribe if I can help. And also remember, if you have any questions about any of the chapters or anything that's happening in the story, please leave me a comment. I do answer everyone's comments. So if you have a question, I'm happy to help. Have a wonderful day and thank you for listening.